board from what I understood, and then it was sold later to Braintree, I think, for $800 million. Tell me, you stayed on for what period? What made you decide to sell? Tell us a little bit about that, because that's a tough thing for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And how many years into it was it?
Okay, so our first acquisition with Braintree was about 3.5 years into us having the first version of Venmo, and that was.
How big were you at that time? Like how much were you? How many members did you have?
So we had 5,000 active users and 25,000 users, which is, to me, the fact that Braintree came in and took us on is you know, I'm forever grateful for. But the story goes like this, and it was probably one of the darkest times that I've ever encountered and Venmo encountered, because when we were 3 months before Venmo was 3 months before Venmo got acquired by Braintree, we realized that we were spending exponentially compared to any sort of revenue that we were creating. So we actually didn't make any money from day one, because we still today offer Venmo as a free service. So when you pay your friends back, it's free. And early on, we were incurring a 3% credit card fee per transaction. So when we
giving it for free, but you were being charged to give the service.
Yeah, and it got to the point where we had raised $5 million, and we were set out to spend in 1 year $35 million. Now think about that. Now that's one of those you don't do it again, but glad we did it then.
Explain that math to us. How you kept going.
Yeah,
I want to know.
We were naive. And sometimes that works to your advantage, because the reason a lot of people weren't getting into payments is because it's so expensive. But we were, two guys that just needed a way to pay each other back, and that's all we cared about. And that as long as our friends were paying us back, we were paying them back. We weren't really worried about the other details. But lo and behold, now we're growing from a basement startup, to. We have a board of directors. We've raised our first round of funding, and we're starting to learn about financial planning. We were very much learn as we grow.
Yes.
We start looking at the numbers, and there was a 2-month period where all of a sudden the amount of volume that was flowing through Venmo started increasing exponentially, and we only caught it 6 months after we had raised our Series A round of financing.
Yes.
And I remember very vividly being in a board meeting with me, Cortina, and 3 other people, Samir Gandhi from Excel, and Ian Sigalo, and Eric Weissen from RRE. And we said, look, we really need you to re-up your investment, because we think Venmo is still going to be a big smash, but unfortunately we have some cost structures to fix. Now, I've learned the second time around how to back that up, because the first time we were a little nervous. We didn't really know we could fix it. And our investors were viewing us as a seed stage investment. They just wanted to see, look, can these guys take it from this phase to the next? And the next phase for us was, we need $100 million to continue growing a 5,000 member company, to the next PayPal. And that story, if you imagine us telling that story then, 6 months after raising our first $5 million, we weren't that convincing, because they were like, well, how did you not see this in the first place? Well, we erupted, we didn't know. So none of our investors were willing to participate in our next round. That said, we were all trying to figure it out together. It was more like, hey, can we find another solution? And in this period, Cortina and I were having conversations like, okay, we're not going to be able to make next month's payroll. So we started talking to our employees about what it would take for us to wind Venmo down. Him and I were thinking about possible things we could do to keep it around if it was just the two of us running it, because we really, really didn't want to let go of Venmo. And one of the things that was really nice about Venmo is the entire team, no matter how much money we were making or how much we had to gain, the entire team was very passionate about the product, because we put our blood, sweat, and tears into making that product an experience that people would love. And 2 weeks before, so I had a meeting like this, in front of not this many people, but 25 people. And I sat down and I said, it must be much tougher with this many. And I sat down and I said, look, thank you for all your hard work, but it seems like we're not able to garner any more investment to continue running Venmo. As you know, it's very expensive, and we made a few mistakes in terms of our cost structure that we had to fix. And hopefully we all learned something together. Let's take all this energy and build something great next time around. That was the conversation we have, and now everyone at the company is looking for another job, or we're trying to help people figure out what comes next. And by the grace of Spirit, God, whatever, good energy and positive vibes, this guy, Bill Reddy, called us up and said, and it was an introduction from one of our board members, Samir Gandhi, and said, hey, what are you guys up to with this Venmo thing? And he was the CEO of a very profitable company called Braintree that was not a consumer-facing product. It was a B2B product. And he was looking for a young consumer team to come and spice things up a little bit for them. And he called us up and he said, hey, we really like what you're doing with Venmo. Can we fly you out to talk about it? And we didn't really know then that this was would lead to any sort of acquisition. And this is something that I remind myself, of every day. You never know what sign you're going to get. But if you feel something and it feels great, follow it. The way Bill talked to us was he was very passionate about what we were doing. We talked to Groupon. Groupon offered Venmo $3 million, and we'd raised $5 million. Facebook interviewed our entire team, decided to pass. MasterCard was interested, but there was going to be a year-long diligence. And we're like, a year? And Bill Reddy flew us into Chicago. We were in a room with 6 or 7 people, and in the middle of it, Bill said, we were talking about, like, can we partner with you? Can you fund us for another 6 months while we, figure out this cost structure? You can own a piece of Venmo, and then we'll, let's make a partnership. And Bill goes, well, what if we just did an acquisition? And I was the one that answered that, and I said, yeah, let's do it.
When you're 2 weeks to closing your doors.
Yeah, baby. And he said, how much? I said $26.6 million. That was it. And he said, I'm in.